office staff admitted they got 24,000 and they supposedly used 21,000 to talk to their constituents. That's bribery, that's not lobbying. Lobbying is not done by officials of government. So we all stay on the same side.
May you put me on the record? May you poison me?
I say every senator or every representative don't disrupt the meeting. I say everybody in the legislature got 24,000, and I know specifically one person. When you want me to call Perry Gandhi?
You talk about Senator Jenny. What the name?
I'm not going to Senator name because I don't want to.
Chief,
So to get back to the point, the 68 contracts, all 68 were actually illegal, not by the law. The 68 concessions. The two that were considered, passable were only because they did not have a preponderance of issues against them. Those two from NorCal had only 3 issues, whereas the rest of the 66 contracts had the 5, 6, and 7 issues wrong with them that made them not appropriate to the process. So thank you, and we believe that the entire legislature has some issues that need to be addressed by the Liberian people through the ballot box.
Thank you. A contract like ours, where people are now resorting to recording people in order to extract the truth out of them, is scary. Our country, whether we like it or not, is on the brink of losing moral values and integrity, where public officials shamelessly lie about everything unless Jesus breaks the camera. We have reached a point where people are now going to the length of recording public officials because without such recordings, they will deny. Look, Liberty Party has frowned on corruption. Liberty Party continues to. Darius Dillon, I was chief of staff in the legislature. The both houses are accused and challenged lawmakers for taking bribe. I hold the view that people who make laws should have some moral standing, some moral rectitude. They should be ethical. I accuse those people for taking bribe, and what happened? They bundled up and locked me up for what they call legislative contempt for 6 months. I was in the House of Senate as chief of staff, and I know what the senators were doing. Almost all of them shortlisted the staff and taking the money that each senator is entitled to 14 staff. Some of them had 5 staff, and the money of the staff that were not employed, they were eating it. And I accused Senator John Balu particularly that he was shortchanging the Liberian government by corrupting the system and defrauding the government, our people of needed resources. What did the Liberian Senate leadership do? They came up with a suspension. I was suspended for 3 months without pay and was barred from entering the Capitol building. There are some of us who stand up against these societal vices, but our country is such that we've reached a point where we are rewarding the people who are depleting our coffers. Where are the churches? Who are the churches confirming honoring today? Briefly, the churches in Nigeria today have got a standard letter to honor people. Dear Mr. Taylor, for your contribution to the church and state and society, we want to honor you. The second paragraph says, during the honoring program, there will be a rally. That kind of letter cannot go to poor people.
Thank you, Mr. Family, can you briefly respond to Mr. Kwame Clement's statement? In terms of the representatives in the legislature and the issue of corruption. Unity Party was 1/3 of the Liberian legislature.
Well, you know, on this particular matter, I'm like a twin mother. In that, I don't want to play in the hands of intellectual jurors like Clemens and Alva to leave from here indicting me. But let me say here that indeed corruption is as old as perhaps Methuselah. But Mr. Shirley asked a good question, and I think it's a very great question. He said not too late. Someone answered from the other side and said no. I believe sincerely that we can begin to discuss the issue of corruption fairly if we involve in our curriculum, you know, that, you know, that it's a very difficult issue. It's very difficult. But we need to start. We need to start with the curriculum. Well, let's start teaching the younger ones. Like someone said, some of us are older now, but at least the emerging ones. Let's start from how do you call it, preschool, teaching values, teaching social values, teaching credibility, whatever these well-dressed minds in the academic field can put together. The pastor say, look, there can be a beginning, but for me, as old as I am in terms of corruption, you know, it's late. You need to start training. You need to start training the young ones. You know, and then you need to start training. Like the brother said, who has a website, he said they went after bribery. Yeah, bribery, embezzlement, and everything, man. You cheat on your wife, you take something. All of that is corruption. Therefore, we need to begin to teach values in the primary school, so that when the kids are growing up, they grow up with a sense of value and integrity. Right. So I submit.
Thank you, Mr. Family. And you pass it over to Mr. Passaway.
I think we've heard very clearly what the Learning Council has stated about the Rodney Sikkim. I think the two gentlemen very brilliantly stated the facts. I think looking forward, there are two key things I think we need to also be aware of. There's a lack of political will. There's a lack of political will. We can dissect it any other way. There are laws on the books. The money that the Senate and the senators and representatives take the Liberian people money. There's a law. There are laws there that the executive can go after them with. But there's a lack of political will. So the 68 contracts need to be enforced. There are compliance regimes, compliance requirements. The question obviously will be, how do we go forward to ensure, because the negotiation, we all know, we're not doing it with faith. It's very clear from the Wall Street report and other reviews. So I think that we need to all recognize that going forward, we have to ensure compliance is rigid. And other than that, I mean, there's not a political will. If you don't have political will, nothing else really matters, because the laws will not be enforced. The people are divvying up the resources. You have compliance issues that are not enforced. And guess what? We will continue to raise to the bottom. And in the end, our people will have the short end of the stick. So I think those two key things must not be lost in the conversation.
We'll now proceed. The next question, Mr. Charles Ebu King. Mr. King.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Huh? Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Charles Ebu King. I was once Deputy Director of Police for CID in the Republic of Liberia. I'm now a self-empowerment coach. One of the panelists mentioned about empowerment. how can we empower our people to move from here now to go forward? This is the issue. But empowerment has to start from understanding from whence we've come. The Freetown man said, whose place should I come out? If you know whose place should I come out, you be chief man. I feel seriously that the members of the party, yes, should definitely begin to re-look at and revisit the history of our country to empower our people to understand where they are from. Because unless we can understand where we are from, we cannot go anywhere. We have to be united as a people before we can become a nation. We must complete the statement. And I'm going to mention this because no one likes to bring it up because they don't know how to bring it up. It's brought up from a position of divisionism. I'm bringing it from a position of unity. When it is said, and listen carefully to what I'm saying, when it is said, listen carefully, that the settlers were constantly involved in wars with the Aborigines, we have to complete this statement. Don't leave it like that, because many people take it a different way. There was an occasion when the Aborigine chiefs, while the settlers were there, had captured people in the interior, their own brothers and sisters, and they were taking them to the sea to give to the slave traders. They ran away, some of them ran away and went to the settlers' village for protection. The settlers said they would take them. The chiefs, the representatives of the tribe, came and said, release these boys to us or we will attack you. The settlers said no. And they attacked the village, the settlers, and retrieved those that they had captured and marched them. Now, was this ever known or taught in our history? Because we don't want to complete the sentence. We all want to leave it as it is, to separate our people and divide us because we're from this place and that place. When you look at the history of where we are from, we all came from other places to Liberia. If we can recognize this as one people, then we can move forward. This is how you empower our people, our youngsters, to go forward. We have to start from there, and then we move forward in a strong, desirous form. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Mr. Reverend Suku?
No, we have a list.
No, but name on the list, that's why.
You're next on the list after Dr. Suku. Everybody, please observe your 30 seconds because we want to give ample time for the rest of others behind to be able to speak. So questions are only no more than 30 seconds, and the timekeeper will help with that. Proceed, Doctor.
Thank you very much. I'm Dr. Suku. I want to let you know that there's no DNA in all of us. It's not true. Number one. That's number two. So one of them saying that what's wrong with us is us. It's not true. It's not us. Us. Your fault. Hello?
Hello?
What I'm saying to you here, we don't have DNA in us like Liberia. What's wrong with you is you. Because if John Brown stole $10,000, it's not me, so it's him that did. So we want to clear that. Here, we're looking for an answer that we already have. The Unity Party is the problem in Liberia. All of the problems in the Unity Party. Let me tell you something. In 1960, I was 7 years old. We had aliens who were killing in Maryland County. And he was the chief of police, working directly with President Tubman. And then they were looking for the killer, who were taking the parts to whatever he was distributing the parts. And so they needed an answer. So John Dix of Maryland was a captain. So he said, I have the solution. So he arrested Ali and said, we can put an end to this corrupt practice. In 1975, the very Mrs. Johnson was then the Minister of Finance when they created anti-fraud unit. Most of you here know about it, even Reverend Dix knew about corruption. And then, today she's the president, she said she had an answer. So with all these things that going on, you need to dismiss the people. If a Liberty Party says they shouldn't dismiss the people, then you need to get out of the Liberty Party. We're looking for a strong political party that will stand for the Liberian people. We don't want a party that flip-flops. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have one more much needed, right?
No, yeah, we got it.
Thank you. Excuse me. Okay, on timing. No corruption yet. No corruption, on timing. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say that there is a solution. It can be fixed. It can be approached. And I have a couple of examples. I was in Liberia in July, just before 26. I came back on the 24th. And for once, I arrived at the airport. I went through customs. Nobody asked me for a penny. I went through everything. And why? Because a few people had just been fired for some corrupt practices that they found at the airport. And all of a sudden, the airport became a welcoming place. It can be done. It can be fixed. The second example I have that it can be fixed is when I visited the Marine Training Institute in Marshall. It's run by the Maritime. I think the head of that institution is Dr. Lincoln Brownell. And the young man who gave me a tour of the institution took me first to the classroom. There were about 60 students, one female, men, all men in uniform doing very well. I mean, I spoke to them. Then they took me to the boys' dorm. In the boys' dorm, these are young men who you know how the young men are in Liberia, pimping boys and all that. Those young men, their rooms were sparkling clean. Every bed was made. Their shoes in the corner. And one thing I noticed, the door was wide open. We just walked in. And I turned to the person who gave me the tour. His name was Edward Massacre. Not the old Edward Massacre we knew. I asked him, I said, oh, the door is open. They still sell food in Liberia for coming. And he said to me, oh, they will never steal anything. You leave your cell phone here, you can go and come back. You will read it right there. I was surprised. He took me to the bathroom, the men's bathroom of the Marine Training Institute. You could eat off of the urinals, men's urinals. You couldn't smell anything. The floor was clean, no water dripping anywhere. It was sparkling. I asked him, who is training these young boys? He said, I am. He's about 30-something years old. He has been trained in Ghana at the immigration training institution. He has been trained in Botswana. He has been trained in Europe, in India. And the thing that he has learned in all those places, he brought to bear there. And I will say, I asked him, why are you not putting a training program together for the country, for the schools, for the curriculum? I'm asking him, and he said, I tried, but the system didn't permit it. So, why is there corruption? Is when there's no system in place for check and balance. And if there is a so-called system, it is the political will is not there to adhere to it. There is nobody executing to make sure people follow the laws. And right now, I have a great example. When you come to Liberian gathering, people talk, you get in 5 minutes, they talk forever. But There was a system. Because there was a system, everybody adhered to the time. We had no problem with timekeeping. Thank you.
So that's the time. Now, my is going to keep time for Mr. Chicago Bryce Sauer, who is checking her time. Go ahead. Your question, Mr. Sauer.
I'm Chicago Bryce, founder and CEO of the Chicago Bread Foundation. I would just go directly to the question to all of the panelists here. Mr. Pastor would talk about political will, and I think I agree with him. In terms of corruption in Liberia, my approach has been top-bottom approach. That is, you take it from the top to the bottom. People who in power are prosecuted to the full weight of the law, and then people who start seeing the example. But now, my question now is that with all of the GSC reports since 2006 or 2007, I've not seen anyone being convicted to this point. Is it because the government lacks the, he talked about weapons, I said it lacks the spine, the political spine, to kind of prosecute these people so an example can be set. I want to talk about all of the people in the legislature are corrupt, including his political party, Liberty Party, the Unity Party. So all of us now agree that everyone in there in the system are corrupt. Now what are you doing as a political party to hold the current government in power accountable? Your own people. We can just talk and talk and talk without no action. And so I want to know what your actions, how you're going to address corruption in your political party so that you will select the right people to lead us. And with the Unity Party, what are you doing to address this corruption? What are you trying to push away the GSC report about prosecuting people? Thank you.
Mr. Farmer, I have a question for you. Mr. Farmer will respond to the questions from the Unity Party from Mr. Bryce.
Well, thank you very much. I think these are cogent questions and they call for a lot of concern. I would hope that the ambassador will be here to answer from the perspective. Would have been here to answer from the side of the government.
I think he trusts his representative.
I'm just a political man. But let me say this much. I agree that there is corruption at all levels. But this is where sometimes I disagree with some of us. We have three co-equal branches of the government. And we all know that it's elementary. My only question here is that there is the issue that there is non-interference amongst the separate government. And even as such, the legislature is the first branch of government, and I served there before, the great people of Cape Town. And we did things a little differently then than is being done now. We had the will, the political will, to muster the courage to hold meetings and to see what is in the best interest of the people. And so during our time, you could stay there and go back and run and win. But during this time, you're there one time, you go back, you don't come back again. But as I say, the executive branch cannot control the judicial branch if there's corruption in the judicial branch. The executive branch cannot do that. Likewise, in the legislature. But I think the whole country needs to come together
to find a way to address this systemic problem of corruption. And I think one of the ways to do it is that, in fact, they should have the warrant system. That warrant system was used as a means to check and to check how expenditures are lifted and how they are paid. If no more in existence. So as a result, you got one man signing an agreement for a whole ministry. And if I may borrow from my distinguished little brother here, sometimes the willpower is not there. So as a result, it permeates the depth and breadth of Liberia. But I think where government should start from is sometimes the argument of the law of the personal street. There's not enough evidence to have people prosecuted. But they need to beef up the justice ministry. And that beef up the justice ministry and have an investigatorial committee to pull people aside and investigate them once there is a hunch or they are buying into the justice system, to be thoroughly investigated. And if found culpable, they should be, prosecuted and let the court take its course. But again, you got a problem. There's bribery among the jurors. There's also bribery in the juror. Now we hear that there has to be judicial reforms. So with all of these things, I don't know where we start from. But I submit.
To put that in context, Mr. Kamala, it was a very level-headed and balanced presentation, especially from the ruling party. But you talk about a committee or some branch being set up in terms of investigating. They have the anti-corruption bureau, whatever, headed by Councilor, former Chief Justice Johnson. I don't know who would want to comment. The government representative here will speak.
Just before the government representative speaks to that, John, I will ask you a permission.
15 seconds will yield to you.
Thank you. Yeah. You see, I don't want to sound repetitive. It is a fact that the government has proven lack of will to fight corruption in the country. When you indict Musa Belete, let's not forget the president is the chief magistrate of the country. When you indict Musa Belete as a result of the scandal at the Barrow International Airport, and the chief magistrate of the country goes to a program with Musa Belete and says he's the only man with integrity in the country, then you undermining the justice system, and if out, the justice minister will resign. But again, we do not have courage. Professional people in the country don't have courage to be government job. Everybody just want to be government, and they don't have that courage to protest, to resign in protest. That I want to see this change, but because there's lack of courage from the top, I'm resigning in protest. It's not that. The president is not helping in the fight against corruption, and it's clear. The president is on record to say every time she wants to move, friends and family can come talk to her. You listen to the defense minister on tape saying to Ellen Concord, hey, don't worry, I'll go fix it up with the president so that with us. And when you hear the defense minister say, even PPCC, the Public Procurement Commission, or Consulting Commission, the head of that commission can sign any public contract only if you give a gas and 2 bottles of Henneken. And it's not sitting in office, we must be joking.
But you said indicted disability.
Yes.
Who indicted him?
The governor of Liberia, the justice ministry, indicted Mr. Musa Belete, and 2 days thereafter, the president went to a program with Musa Belete and said he's the best person with integrity in the country. What is that the judge to say?
Now, how did the justice minister indict him?
The justice ministry found that there's some
there were substantial issues within. Exactly.
property at Justice and the LIA, for which this girl from America, Ellen, who they recorded, fled the country, they were all jointly indicted. And the president went to the program of Musa and said, he's a bad guy, I'm going to black.
Well, you know what? I will. Let me tell you something. Like I say, I'm here as a twin mother. I agree with some of the issues that has to do with corruption. And I agree that the lack thereof for the president to take action against those that are found to be corrupt is a problem. It's a serious problem. And so, if you don't do that, others find it as a means of continuing, that situation. And it's bad for the country. Besides that, when she took office, she said that, look, corruption is public enemy number one. While we agree with that, it has not been mitigated to the extent where Liberians will have some respect for the government and for the leadership. I think what is missing here is leadership and the political will to sort of douse the flame in the corrupt areas. I do agree with most of the issues, but equally so, I just like to make sure that we establish authenticity on these matters. Thank you.
Well, as you can see, I am an observer here. Too much part of what could be, what is being, or what will be. But what I'm interested in here, I think this forum too, as we talk everything about corruption in the country, I want you to look at the example of some people here who have been talking something about the solution. I think we should also try to have some substance on the solution. I admire the question that Mr. Salim asked. She said, don't you think it's too late? And her husband came, Dr. Salim, and she said that corruption was in the fabric of the Liberians, in our DNA. And my old-time schoolmate, Councilor Clement, said that, we should not blame the market women. Don't blame, and he gave some examples. But, in talking about corruption, I think we should talk about it in the entirety here in this forum. If you go to a market woman, a woman in Liberia, and she's selling 5 balls of bitter ball, when it's supposed to be $5, then she make it 4 balls. That's corruption. So I tend to agree with Dr. Salim that there's certain things in the fabric or in our DNA. And the next thing here is that we're talking about solution. I think we should start to teach the silver book in the schools, like how it used to be. In the 60s, 70s, some of you agree with me. We should stand and pledge allegiance to the flag and a lot of things. Love of country. My little grandson here, I was talking something about acting. The little boy was about 7 years old. And I said something about Morocco. He was vexed for me. Why was the little boy vexed? Because of love of country, love of Morocco. What they teach in the schools, these people become loyal to their country. So I want us to talk more also about the solution. What do we do? And I would say that some of you here have done certain things like that over. What are some of the ways in which we are able to reduce corruption? By trying to have economic power. Some of you here will collect $20 every month, and then, apart from what you send home to friends and things, and then we will have something like, organize yourselves and go to Liberia, manage your own money. Try to do something about health things in the counties and things like that. Have the people employed then. If we do that on a massive basis, a lot of people will be from Boston and go back to the interior to work. It will limit the living about corruption. Let me stop there. I know I talk a lot, but I think we should talk about the solution too.
Thank you very much, I will proceed down the list. We got a list of people here. We want to be fair to each one according to order. And also, you know, time is going unlimited. So in order for us to exhaust 6 or 7 other people who needs to ask the question, I appeal to you to observe the timekeeping. No more than 30 seconds. I'm not even saying a minute. It won't take more than 30 seconds. That's more than enough to ask a question. So please be very brief. And the next person on the list here is Mr. Dr. Brian T. Lloyd. Dr. Lloyd.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. My question here is to the political parties on the table. First to CDC, because we're second in line. What can you do, if given the opportunity, what can you do at this time? I mean, what can you do to stop corruption? What can you present to Liberian people say, this is what we can put in place and corruption will be stopped or minimized? I know you won't be able to stop it totally, but what can you do? Now, my second question here is, to the rest of the political party, what are you doing that time comes for election, Liberian people can say, you have done something and we can put our trust in. Thank you.
Thank you. One of the first things a CDC government will do is ensure that the laws are enforced. Ensure that the level of respect granted by the Constitution and the public financial management regulations to the general auditing office are being implemented in terms of the weight the audit carries, the implementation of the audit, and we ensure that there's a coordination or standard coordinating body between the implementing agencies, the GSC, the LACC, and the Ministry of Justice as to how they approach the investigation, the indictment, the prosecution of all these different corrupt cases. That's one. Two, implement those systems that will preempt some of the corruption that we see today, from education, from engagement in entire shops, or market women, schools. I mean, physical representative of the people who fight corruption, being in those immediate environments and talking to the people and understanding them. Really enforce the Whistleblower Act. There are people in government who know that corruption is happening. Ensure them and assure them that when they come forward, they will not be prosecuted negatively or discriminated against within the workplace. If you can represent 2 instances or 3 instances to the people where those people are secure, they get the necessary monetary reward that comes with whistleblowing, you will see a difference in how people approach the issue of corruption. And then we have to be honest with each other. There's a lot of complicity in our environment. We know people are corrupt, we know people are accused of corruption, they come in, we rub shoulders with them, we say it's all fine and everything. So the CDC does have those things in place, plus the fact that the auditors themselves, because, for example, I know that there were a couple of auditors that went to audit a certain government ministry, and the audit came out that kind of way, but eventually, those people got jobs without particular, ministry in high positions. So it just tells me that auditors are being compromised as well. So holding them to a certain professional standard is also extremely important. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tucker. The next person to recognize Mr. George Blake. He had his hand up for a question. If Mr. Blake is not available, then the next person in line I see is Mr. Arthur Weado.
Thank you, Mr. Lloyd. But I want to ask as to whether the corruption you're talking about is the small one or the big one. Because we're talking about bitter boy, we're talking about thousands of dollars, so we have to be specific. So if we are talking about the big one, I want to say, for 166 years, have been on this road. And all of us in this hall, I think we know the solution. And we have friends who we know are corrupt, but we can't bring them forward. Because why? We love them and we are not patriotic. My brother Abba said everybody in the national legislature corrupt, even the CDC. And he made a very, very good point when CDC wins the election. They will put in place certain things. What are they doing now to eject or take all of the guys from the national legislature? At least for the place to be clean. Thank you.
And I can respond to that? We started off with you eat, I eat, and the minister eat too. You know who's that? Representative 4, we're studying from the body. You eat, I eat, job, I job, all. The second thing is, I think he asked that question before. I have recognized Mr. Chicago Bray as somebody who I think can uphold the interests of the Liberian people. I've asked him to come and run on a CDC ticket in a district. He chose not to. The thing is, the CDC is looking for real patriots. We want people to join, we want professionals to join. Like somebody has said, there's no one party that can do this alone. That's one of the things why now, as much as it seems like there's some kind of symbiotic relationship between the Liberty Party and the Unity Party, I appreciate it. Because it just shows that the Unity Party is reaching out to the Liberty Party, looking for some professionals. I'm happy. Yesterday I heard that my friend Zach Sharp is now the Deputy Minister of Administration and Public Works. So those kind of things, if Madam Selif can do more, look for the best and brightest Liberians and bring them into government and let them help the Unity Party run the country from a partnership perspective, it will be helpful. But when you feel that you only have a very short list, the same people continuously rotating in leadership, it's sad. It's very sad and disappointing. I can give you an example, like somebody like Emmanuel Shaw, initially being appointed as the LAA chairman, or Francis Cabal being reappointed in government. Madam Sadi has to look outside of comfort zone and bring in other people to be part of this thing. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go back to Mr. George, please.
My name is George Blake. I'm a man who believes in definite action. And when you are dealing with a complacent government, you have to demonstrate some kind of action to let them know that you need something. And I'll tell you one thing, you see why they always think it? Because like when people believe that when we speak, we gather. We gather for nothing. That's why they always think it. They are aware of this program. When they say, what's the need? We go over there, they just talk here and there, after that everything is gone. So my question to the panelists here and to political aspirants or political politicians, whatsoever they are, is that do you guys have any plan to engage this government on the issue of corruption? If so, do you have any means, any plan, modality, if they don't want to do this thing? Because we know that government is not doing this, forwarding this thing, doing this thing, calculating this thing, and it's not this thing. Are we just going to gather all the time and just talk about corruption here and there? Because everybody here got beautiful story about corruption. Nobody wants it. But my question is, what are you guys? How are you going to engage that government? The government need to be engaged. They need to be engaged, and if they refuse, what will be your second plan? Plan B.
Okay, I'll ask the president to respond to that.
I think, like you say, I think the esteemed gentleman has been very clear about the challenges and difficulties. And I think I made it very clear from the onset, there's a lack of political will. Now, you say, what are you doing? What can you do? I can tell you some of the things the Alternative National Congress is contemplating. I can tell you also some of the things that will help improve the way forward. But there are things this government can do now. And what are we doing? We're pulling them out. We're pointing them out. We're showing them where the things don't need new laws, the things that they could do to help make a difference. Now, we talk about removing people from position. If you are the General Accounting Office Commission, is a government-sanctioned body. They are, if they agree with it, disagree with it, that's a different matter. They have had or helped or they had audits, findings, and they have presented their findings. There's a process. The executive controls the prosecution power. There is a lack of political will. Now, we can recommend, we can identify what we're going to do. For example, we have a couple of things we're developing our policy positions. The things we're pointing out today that are happening that could be addressed. That's the most we can do, exert ourselves, because the most effective place as a citizenry is through the ballot box, where you can really make a difference. And we continue to reach out to our people, tell them, engage the government. By the end of the day, no matter what you do, you just need to make sure that unless you go to the ballot box, the government power has responsibility. If there's a lack of political will, we have laws on the books. I don't know whether you can make a difference if this government has no political will. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ben Sauer.
My name is Ben Sauer. I'm a member of LCA, Liberia Community Association, Washington area. I have two things here. Like the Sally said, that corruption is in the blood, the DNA in the blood. But my suggestion for that is that can we like do dialysis of the blood? Part two is my own observation about I'm a Liberian, I love my country. My observation about Liberia is that it does not matter what party, because when you're not in power, they come and say all kinds of things, but when you get into power, it's a different kind of thing. I hear Unity Party, like different parties saying this is what we want to do, this is what we want to do. But because of that DNA, all of them have that same DNA. When they go there, they do the same thing. So, this is my suggestion. Which I think the rule of law, because there's law on the book, we have to come, there's law on the book. It doesn't matter who you are or where are you from. Once you are corrupt, I think the law should deal with you. They should enforce the law. They shouldn't say because I know Ben Sauer or Ben Sauer is related to the president. I think the rule of law should take force. That's one of the best solutions, because if you do not really enforce the rule of law, Liberia will continue to remain the same, because it does not matter whether CDC, Unity, go there. They just want to do their own things. But if CDC man, like somebody was talking about, I don't know who they were talking about, the government jail or something, it does not have to relate to one person, it has to be every person. Anybody for that matter who does anything that corrupt. Because I was just looking at the topic, it said corruption, the fault of government, which I agree with, or the product of the people. It is the people that make the government. So if the government is so corrupt, who make up the government? The people. The people sit there and encourage corruption, because you don't set example. Once you set example, I believe this corruption will be minimized, even though you cannot erase it completely, but it is minimized.
Thank you, Mr. Sauer. Okay, I request everybody to respect the 30-second time limit. Right now, we'll move on to the next person, Mr. Jacob Chidley.
Yes, I just wanted to go on record that we really need to banish this idea that corruption is in our DNA. I think it frustrates people, the purpose of this discussion. I don't think any country has corruption in their DNA. I will give a short story that I learned like a year ago from a fellow from Malawi. He and his son live in Sweden. And the son one day asked him, coming from school, since the son says to him, look, why is it that every time when we're in Malawi, people are always stealing money, the government we're investing and all of that? Why is it that here we don't see too much theft? And so they go online to Google something. They realize that for every Swedish citizen, for every 15 Swedish citizens, there's a police officer. In Malawi, it's almost 11,000 people to one police officer. So people by themselves we have tendency to be corrupt. It is the system to correct that corruption that makes it work. So I don't think a Swede is any more honorable than a Liberian. The fact of the matter is we have a system that allows us to steal and go free. That's all it is. You have to put in place some mechanism to stop it. So we have to stop this idea that the micro money in the place, you take two ball of pepper and put it on the other side. That's like begging the question.
People need to know that if you go out of your way and steal communal money, we'll do everything we can to prosecute you. The next thing I wanted to say was that for Mr. Dillon, I'm really surprised that you go to jail for standing up for yourself like that. I mean, in a very patriotic way, I must commend you for doing that. But I was wondering, what was your political party doing to ensure that that wrong didn't stand? Have we lost our way as a civil society? Don't we stand up anymore to say something is wrong and stand against it as a people? Thank you.
Thank you. I will use this time to quickly respond to that Ryan question about Ryan Law's question about what Liberty Party would do differently should we be in state power. Let me respond this way. You know, my father says, if your Christmas will be good, you can know it from your Eve. It is from Christmas Eve you can know or determine what you will eat or wear on Christmas Day. Liberty Party was the first to enter this hall today. We respect time. Liberty Party is determined to take Liberia to a new height, a new level. And the way we intend to do it is to do it with love, with honesty, and with integrity. What the Liberty Party do when I was sent to jail, Liberty Party could only issue a condemnation. And also, my detention was challenged before the Supreme Court. And admittedly, the court ruled that my detention was unconstitutional because we didn't meet the tenets of due process. And so I was released before the 6-month period. Yet still, I have said to a couple of people, the problem in our country today is not just today. We do not even have a philosophy as a country and people. In America, they have the American dream. What is our dream as a country and people? What do we aspire to? Where's the opportunity? Lack of opportunity in Liberia is causing people to compromise on their integrity and their principles. You got to practically kiss people's feet in order to survive, to get an opportunity for school fees, scholarship, and everything is compromised. Today in our country, every critical voice is being compromised because of the economic condition of the people. I am a victim. I am a victim. I'm not embarrassed or ashamed to say it. But if we had an opportunity where every Liberian citizen will ask for those opportunities, if you fail or you do not succeed, you blame yourself. In Liberia, the system demands of us what it doesn't provide for us. I was contesting for senator, and people said I should be a college graduate before I become a senator. That was their requirement outside the law, which I do not have a problem with. How many college graduates we do not have in the government? Are they performing?
Thank you very much. We'll now have the next question from Mr. Lloyd F. Scott. What I say, Councilor Lloyd F. Scott.
Good evening. There are a few Liberians I admire more than Kwame Clement. A few politicians I admire more than Mr. Dillon. And so right before I take a quibble with him on an issue, I want to ask the opposition parties, especially the CDC and the Liberty Party, are you prepared to request of the representatives from Monrovia that they immediately begin drafting laws to repeal some of these archaic laws in the book? For instance, we're talking about most of the laws in Liberia are better than the laws in the U.S. Some exceptions are when libel in Liberia is criminalized versus being a civil law and civil issue yet. Are you prepared to get them to start doing those things that can have practical effect? And to this entire room, to what level of responsibility are we holding the journalists in Liberia also? Because we're making noise, and some of us are very, very taken aback for what's happening in this particular case. But there have been many instances where individual Liberians who are unable to go through the legal process have been harmed, their reputations have been destroyed based on mere gossip and lies by the very journalists. So today, we cry against the government because it's rotten in the government. Tomorrow, when they destroy one of our reputations, occasion, we shouldn't want to drink Lysol. We have to also hold the journalists eyebrow responsible. The last thing, the young people of Liberia have to be intellectually honest about this issue of tackling corruption. After Mr. Dillon came out from jail, we admired the fact that he was released. But 2 years ago, Mr. Dillon was one of the strongest campaigners for this very government, as in power today. So do not come and start convicting or accusing them of corruption. I'm very shocked, because people were saying the same thing, that this woman has chronically underperformed for 6 years. You want to reward her, the thing was, let her complete what she started. So now that she's completing it, you go and have
So, Mr. Dillon, can you respond? Why is this a President Salim?
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, the decision that I took or I made to support President Salim in his second term, I do not regret it. I stand by that decision, and if the scenario that led to that decision replaced itself, I would do it again. If in 2005, I hold the view that if President Bromsky, my presidential candidate then, had won the election, taking into consideration the condition of the country at the time where we were as a near failed state, I don't see whether Bromsky or we are or any other Liberian might have done significantly different from what Ellen had achieved up to 2011. It was my view then that we needed some stability and not just rush into changing hand of government or leadership because we want to change. I thought we needed to sustain the peace, sustain our stability, and then and keep our democratic process on course, and we can afford any a second chance. I also held the view that with a second chance, President Salim will not have political sympathy for anybody, because she wouldn't be contesting again, and so she will want to leave a very positive legacy for the country. I held that view, premised upon which, or predicated upon which, I took that decision. Am I happy the way things are today in Liberia? No. Let's not forget. No. I said, if the situation that necessitated my decision replaces itself, I would not regret making that decision again. But let me say this. We all know Lucifer was created by God. But when Lucifer decided that he would turn to Satan, God decided to throw him someone else. And that is precisely the very thing I am doing. So, we will address the CDC issue.
Ladies and gentlemen, let the CDC representative respond.
Mr. Scott, Councilor Scott, your question was very pertinent. We have been calling for the Law Review Commission that had a budget of, I think, $700,000 last year and $700,000 again this year to do the work. There are a significant number of archaic laws or non-applicable laws or laws that are just overly burdensome on people that will affect the Liberian people for every instance. Those laws come up, it will have to be something from a constitutional or Supreme Court perspective for those things to be addressed. So that's how we look at it. Yes, we push our lawmakers to look at these things. Unfortunately, the reality is, I don't know how many lawyers are in the legislature today. So we have to tap into resources like you, Councilor Clement, want to be, you see my counselor here, right? attorney found for them to look at these laws. Ambrose Watersey, other people who can look at it from an objective perspective and start to try to reform some of these laws. That's one. Your other question about Rodney C.A. Yes, Rodney C.A. has culpability in this situation. Rodney C.A. dismissed the justice system to a large extent. So the judgment is not what some of us have issue with. Some of us have issue with the preponderance of the sentence. The fact that it says they fined him $1.5 million when they sued for the jury awarded him back $1.5 million. It reflects on the disadvantage of the law that for every month you serve, you really take with this $25 of that during the month. When you divide 1.5 million by 25, and by the number of months 12, you get 5,000 months. That's more than I don't know how many lifetimes. So the unrealistic, application of that law, the single running or just pay, no, it's a principal thing. So I think it needs to be addressed at a higher level. And then to see the Minister of Justice, the Solicitor General, the Information Minister, the Deputy Information Minister come to discredit the government liberal audit, it's just embarrassing. It shows it's not a case of just one individual to the other, but typically now it seems like there's a hand behind it trying to manipulate it. So I thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We coming to close. A few more people. It's Tony Davis. Tony Davis. Now, Mr. Davis, you finally have your chance. 30 seconds.
They come here after you all that.
Yeah, thank you. My question is to everybody. First of all, we all need to go to that website. What's it called? Brand Liberia? Yeah, let everybody. All of us need to go there and put our information. If you know somebody who do corruption in Liberia, let's put it in there. And second to Mr. Bob, Mr. Topa, you talk about, you called Senator and he said, you know him personally, okay? You know personally he did one or two things. Can you give that name to this guy so you can't call it right now? Can you give it to him? It is very important. Can you give that name go on the website so we can put a name in so we can start updating people names so we can be able to eradicate corruption like that.
Yeah, excuse me, Mr. Toba, I'm sorry, I have to interrupt a little bit. I agree with him that if we're going to fight corruption, it should start here. Instead of you giving that name to the website, can you call that name, be honest, and call the name?
Thank you. Did I not say that everybody who voted for All Black 13 got $24,000? Did I not say that? So every legislator that voted to approve that bill got that money. It's being documented. They say they got it for lobbying purposes. So we can put that on your website, and I can read it and put down the name of each person who voted.
Well, Mr. Topa has already indicted the entire legislature. He says the entire legislature. So just Google the entire legislature, get all the names, and Okay, let me give some time to Mr. Whitney Kima. Yeah, question?
Good evening. I just want to know what is the role of the political party in directly fighting corruption? Now, I think once you start a political party, you have a responsibility to the people. Do not just form a political party and sit and wait for election. So the political party should be functioning even though there isn't an election in sight, or there isn't an election around the corner. So what is the role of the political party in fighting corruption?
I can admit here that almost every existing political party in Liberia, especially that has representation in government, is guilty of acts of corruption. What are we doing? The thing is, you see, we keep beating on the one word, lack of will to prosecute. We as political parties can mostly issue condemnation statements and expose these things. It's like taking a horse to the river, but you cannot compel the horse to drink. The government clearly lacks the willpower to prosecute. So what do we do then? So then, it's simple. Like one minister, we will exercise restraint like we do in the West River election, because we are not going back to where we came from. We will exercise restraint. One of the other things that we can do is to push on our lawmakers in the legislature to reduce the thinning as legislative tenure. What the reason why it may not just go through because the incumbent lawmakers, and including the incumbent president, feel that that law is not in their interest.
Who's for a referendum?
A referendum is good. We called for referendum in Liberia 2 years ago, and some of us in the opposition, including citizens, said they shouldn't vote for the referendum because it was a government thing. We got a problem.
All right, let me allow, give time to Ms. Olive Hunter. She had a hand up on the list. Mrs. Olive Hunter Blake.
Good evening, one and all. I'm grateful at least I'm part of this conference. I mean, this congregation or audience this evening. And I will always say, when Muhammad cannot walk to the mountain has to walk to Muhammad. We are not true patriots, and it's true. No matter what we do, they are long-range plan, they got short-range plan, you got strategic planning. We are talking about training our youth, the children, that is to say, placing in certain connotation or curricula in the country. But what are we going to do presently? I hear the guests saying that we have to wait until we can go for election. But what is being done right now? We have to do something. You know, I say that affiliation, association will never win. No matter how you dress, wrong cannot be right. So something has to be done. I mean, something just has to be done because no matter what we do, we blanket the problem, or you take off the blanket, the problem is still there. The government cannot just come out and say, oh, we can't fight corruption, we can't fight corruption, we can't fight corruption, and that's it. The very people you put into a system and you call them honorable and all of that, and they're trying to spawn things around you, and then we honor them for it. And then you go and you complain a little nice. You got to know from my area, you complain a nice that she's not taking care of you well in the hospital and she's not doing X, Y, Z. What do we do to these people? Something has to be done. So if you cannot cry wolf, then what do we do? Whether you just stay there and grumble, it's not sufficient. People have to be put, I mean, you make put them to shame and utter reproach. Let's try it around here and see what will happen. We gotta put them into utter reproach and see. Or what's the way forward? My question is, what's the way forward for this present government? To just come out and say, oh, you know, we can't fight corruption, is not sufficient. There has to be a way forward, one way or the other.
Thank you. I will hold on response to that because there will certainly come into closing statement from the parties here. We have a couple of final questions. We had Tanya Sana back there.
This actually goes to Congress for Democratic Change, Mr. Cooper. Earlier in your statement, you mentioned that grand corruption at the highest level of the government, and that corruption actually minimizes the economy. But my question, and one of your solutions were to actually implement preemptive measures. And my question to you is, what are some of the preemptive measures that we can actually implement to prevent government officials from engaging into corruption?
Some of the preemptive measures that I've looked at, one, there's no way here in the modern world where a government official in the US can just go to the bank and get $100,000 from the ministry or so. There's no way where legislators would pay their own employees. The Minister of Finance has been an IT guy, he understands systems, and they've been trying to implement a financial management system, you know, integrated financial management system for the longest time. Why can it not have a roster of employees? I mean, the Deputy Minister of Finance told me, if you take people off the payroll, because I'm insisting that if you take the ghost employees off the Liberian or government payroll, that significant dollars will be saved. He said, if you take those people off the payroll, you'll be in trouble. What trouble? The people that are dead, they're not living, they're not even existing. Then you have trouble. So I don't know, like he said, I read in his will, they're not determined to take a stand and fight, even with the this current budget. The budget is not supposed to be passed for 103 people and their employees to get $33 million in the Liberian budget in terms of legislation. It makes no sense. So there's a lot of ways that we can preempt them through triggers in the financial system, through implementing technology, as well as not letting people actually have contact with dollars. Thank you.
Well, now, the last question coming from religious advisor here, Mr. Titus Clark.
Good evening again. I'm Titus Clark, pastor of People's Church from Baltimore. There were references made to the church. And being a student of the first indigenous bishop of the Lutheran Church in Liberia, often reminded us that the dichotomy between the church and the state is a false one. He also reminded us that that the church ought to be the conscience of the society. And the level, moral conscience that is, and the level at which the church can go is very limited. The church can be a voice, the church can be, can act through various means, but the response from the church is quite limited. So what I'd like to know from you, what are some of your expectations of the church in Liberia in responding to this issue?
Today in Liberia especially, the church is not preaching message of salvation. The church today in Liberia is preaching more about prosperity and how many persons can get visa in the soul seed in the church, how many persons, and you can go ahead and name them. The church has lost that moral voice in our country. It is sad. We have reached to a point in our country where the church cannot speak as a voice for someone to listen. Because even the very people who are preaching on the pulpit are part of the government. And I've always said, like always I said, the government can be pictured as a new house, well constructed, clean and painted. If you put in a house decent people, they will keep that house clean and decent from year to year as though nobody had lived in it. If you put, to the contrary, very dirty people in a clean building, it's going to take less than a week for you to see the spots on the building. Where do people come from to enter the government? The government is an institution. It is us citizens. We come from the church, we come from the mosque, we come from the community. We take our character and our attitude into government. If we are morally upright and if we are ethical people, government will be clean. But again, who should set the checkpoint for us? It is the people who we empower with our lives. We trust them, we vote for them, so that they can take the lead in righting the wrong.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dillon. At this particular time, we will now take closing remarks from the various panelists here, specifically the four political groups. We start, in the opposite direction. We started with Mr. Pascal. At this time now, we'll start with Mr. Gaya from the Unity Party. 2 minutes closing because we are exhausted for our time.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and I know it has been a very important evening for all of us. I hope that CLC will do good. Yes, thank you very much. We'll do a good compartmentalization of all of the fuss that emanated out here this evening. Like I said earlier, I continue to find a way forward. And I just want to make
maybe 1 or 2 recommendations. But before I make those recommendations, I'd like to urge the opposition, my friends and brothers, to talk to their legislators to make sure that they can hastily pass the table-mounting declaration that the president signed so as to try to thwart the criminalization of libel. I think that is very important. She has shown magnanimity towards that end, and so it is left with you now to talk to your legislature to make sure they can pass that. But moving forward, I'd like to say here that my government must demonstrate its commitment to press freedom, freedom of speech, democracy as a whole by condemning the criminal libel laws and the very excessive damages imposed by the courts. But that, of course, we know will have to be worked through the courts. But I think the excessive penalty was very high. The presidency must place its full weight behind the urgent passage of the bill seeking to decriminalize defamation and libel as was proposed a year ago. Third, the government must immediately undertake the prosecution of all those officials, past and present, who are accused of corruption. Fourth, the government must begin an honest reform of the judicial system to weed out corruption and corrupt judges, court officials, the executive also to provide training for those that are urgently needed. I submit.
Thank you. Exactly 2 minutes. The next party, CDC.
Thank you. I would like to really extend the thanks and appreciation of the CDC to everybody who has taken the time to come on here. I think we're very clear in our positions, some of the recommendations we made. I just hope that the authorities that be innocent, that they can come to the table with other Liberians who have the intention of making a change and sit down and have these defined discussions on the way forward and develop the will to act upon it. I think there's a lot of consensus among the bodies here and the parties here, including the audience, on the way forward. And I think we need to approach it in a very collaborative fashion. We as political parties will continue to hold the government's feet to the fire. We'll continue to speak on these issues. And we hope that the government listens in the best interest of the Liberian people. But we do think that come January 1st, if things are not turning around, the CDC will start to exercise its democratic franchise, from protests to demonstration to rallies to civil disobedience. Will exercise every tool at our disposal in a democratic manner to try to make a difference. Thank you.
Now move on to the Liberty Party.
Well, like I've always said to people, Liberia is the only country from where I cannot be deported. That is why I owe Liberia a conscious and nationalistic responsibility to make the country better for all of us, especially our children. For some of us in our early 40s, we still refer to ourselves as youth, simply because the war years took almost 15 to 20 years of our early upbringing. We didn't have time to play. We didn't have any opportunities that were available to us to live. Today in Liberia, the kids don't even know what they call TV. You know, the problems of our country, yeah, they are enormous. And we lack the opportunity to the point. You go to Liberia today, the people are walking, and everybody just looking vexed. When you're hungry and the sun beating you, you just get vexed. It's a problem that we must solve. There is not a broken thing. We'll call on the government as Liberty Party and as what will prevail on some of our lawmakers to begin to sponsor people draining bills, especially the ones that talk about student loan, financial aid to afford every Liberian citizens the opportunity to go to school for empowerment. Also, that they can review their retirement bill for senior citizens, as well as people who diligently serve our country. Because there's no economic security for our people, that is why even the old people don't want to retire. In America, people pray to reach the age 65. In Liberia, nobody wants to reach 65 because there's no economic empowerment and no security. My time is up, but this is serious.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dillon. Mr. Pastor.
Thank you, CCL, Liberty Party Representative, Mr. Dillon, CDC, Alvart, and UP Formula, and also to this gentleman in the audience. I think we know we need to have the transparency. There's a need to have a political will to act. We think also there's a need to enforce existing laws. These are all basic things that can be done now and things need to be considered. There's a consideration, there has to be a consideration for a long-term comprehensive plan that will bring in the opposition to put them onto critical boards. Maybe there's a need for a new court, maybe a need for a new anti-corruption court, which will enable us to have a panel, the jury, we remove the jury system and have judges and panel to address these things, put on a fast track. There's a need to reduce the term limits, the extensive term of these people in the House and the Senate. So again, I end by saying we owe no one an apology. We must never subjugate nor relegate the moral imperative that is Liberia. We must put Liberia first. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, all the parties here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a very fruitful, very productive evening today. The discussions here today on corruption have been broken down for the government or for the people. If corruption is a product of the society and the government also is a product of the people, then we have to go back to the society with all the grief. But we didn't see here tonight that there's any way the government could escape itself from being the prime responsible party in terms of curbing this particular situation. So in terms of the solutions we heard tonight, that there's lack of political will, the need for new laws, the need for the enforcement of laws, and a greater need, as someone said, the government representative called for unity and a sense of national responsibility to curb and find solutions. So we have been here today for solutions. We heard half of our time, suggestions and solutions. Let's begin to put these things forward. And for you representing political parties, as you move towards elections in the future, consider these solutions. Not only at the time of elections, but let's begin the conversation now. And this opportunity, the first of a series of town hall meetings CCL will be having, will be an opportunity, a gateway, to begin to present your ideas and for Liberians as a whole to engage these entities that seek leadership within our country to come up with answers to the many questions, some of which were not answered tonight, on how we can move forward. Thank you very much for the gathering, but before we go, I'd like to give special recognition to the members of CCL Steering Committee. If you're here, put your hand up or stand. We have Mr. Lloyd F. Scott, Mr. Zach Shop, Brian T. Lloyd, Delano Solinki, Mr. Christian Nelson, who's not here, Mr. Will Cassell, Mr. Cecil Frank, Mr. Edward Doe. On the mic, we have Mr. Morris Buster, Lucy Wilson Keir, Magdalene Harris, Ms. Donaldson Kennedy, our host tonight, the Reverend Titus D. Clark, Wilma Machinini Red, timekeeper, famous, Mr. John Limers, our treasurer, Mr. Dr. Joseph Bisa, newly minted doctor, Assistant Secretary General, Mr. Ivar Tupa, and your humble servant, John Lord Chairman. Thank you very much for gathering here tonight, and we now have a closing prayer, and we'll dismiss ourselves. Reverend Clark?
Yes. The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Let us pray. Eternal God, you've been our dwelling place through all generations. From everlasting to everlasting, you are God. through endless years to sin. We turn to you now, Lord, for all of these things that you have placed within our mind. We know that you are a creative God, working contextually with us to achieve your purpose in our world. So empower us, strengthen us, and move us to that place that you intend us to be. And bless all that we say and do. Above all, bless the works of our hands. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Also, too, I forgot.
Please leave your permission at the door. This forum, there's no charge, but just bring up honest, voluntary, charitable contribution to CCL at the door before you leave. This also